Near the shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia state we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue.
Hello, and welcome to our latest podcast, Reflections of Fredonia. In our podcast, we are interviewing Fredonia alumni to give them an opportunity to talk about their careers and to think back on some of their memorable experiences while they attended Fredonia as a student. Today, we are recording from right here in Fredonia at the Fredonia Radio Systems, Fredonia's student-run radio station.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chloe Kowalik. I initially graduated from here at Fredonia in May 2024, and I am now a current student yet again pursuing my Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
Hi, everybody. I am Matt Volz. I'm a recent graduate, class of 2026. I was a journalism major with minors in sport management and social media.
For today's podcast, we have a very special guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and when you graduated from Fredonia.
Hello, this is William Carlson. I'm class of 88, and I was a history major.
So how did you end up deciding to become a history major?
It's interesting because I originally went to SUNY Cortland, and I was an economics major. For what reason, I don't know. But I did have, I'll talk about a little bit of the influences at Fredonia, but all of SUNY schools, you had, what I loved about it is you had smaller class size, you had interactions, you talked to your professors, which I didn't realize how unique that was until I met people from other schools and talked about it. But I had my academic advisor pulled me aside, and he said, "Hey, you seem like a bright kid, but you're really struggling with some of this. What are you really interested in?" And he says, "You're doing really well in history and political science." And we started talking about what my major should be, and it was the best advice I ever got, because I was able to leverage a liberal arts degree in my career throughout, which I think we'll talk about a little bit.
So any particular professors come to mind when you think back about your major?
It's interesting. Dr. Lunenfeld, I
Sure.
loved him, and I just loved his personality and how he was just mesmerizing. I like every college kid, going to class early in the morning was tough, but I really enjoyed his class. But I think the most influential was Dr. Raitt.
Dirk Raitt, yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he had me thinking, really reinforced what where I was going in terms of how I wanted to live and work globally and build a career around that. And he was really influential in helping me. And can I ask one question?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I could not find, I had my last class was a public speaking class. Would that have been you?
Psychology.
Okay.
Did you take any psychology?
No, because you look like him.
Wow.
But I mean, this is 40 years ago, but.
Well, you missed a golden opportunity then.
I did.
I know, right?
But he was the greatest. He was so funny because he was like, "God, you're a sharp kid, but you got to put more effort in."
Yeah.
Oh,
But it was my last class to graduate.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I don't know who that would have been.
I couldn't find it, but he was really cool.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
don't know.
I'll stop. You got to tell me.
No,
Okay.
we
No,
love
you're
it.
good,
We
you're
love
good.
it.
Yeah.
Land the plane is what my friends say.
Yeah.
sure.
So we saw that you did a semester abroad in London. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like.
That was, again, one of the things that helped shape where I went in the future. But I was fortunate to have two sisters that went to school in France and did the same thing. And it was, for me, it was a way to challenge myself and to the students. We were given the option to be within our pod with the students, and they were all from Binghamton and Albany, really bright kids. Mm-hmm. It was pretty competitive again to get in, and I wrote a good essay and had good interviews. Probably didn't have the grades, but I was able to get into the program, and I took as many classes as I could with British students, it was in the mid '80s, so that was Thatcher, Reagan. You know, I embraced every opportunity to not only do the structured programs. We had really great professors. It was London at Brunel University through Brockport. So just a tremendous program. And I really enjoyed, and I built these friendships. And I've got some funny stories on how I got to meet the local guys, and I ended up playing rugby there. And, you know, my best friend was, best man at my wedding was my friend to this day that I met at Brunel.
You get battered and bruised much from those rugby experiences?
I did, but it was a really great way, because I was a converted football player, and but rugby became a lifelong passion for me. I ended up playing until about 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I played at the highest level you can in the States. So
Wow.
Not the national team, but club rugby.
Oh, wow.
I've got to play I played all over, on every continent, and I'm going to get fit to go play in a Masters tournament next year in Tokyo.
Yeah,
Oh,
wow.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
'cause you must have to. You have to really stay in shape, right?
Yeah.
To be able to continue to play a sport like rugby.
Yeah.
I've fallen out of shape a little bit, which is part of the reason why I'm going to start training again. But, yeah.
There you go. Interesting. So how did you find out about Fredonia, and what made you decide to come here?
So I grew up here in town, and I have 4 sisters that went to Fredonia, and a lot of my friends. But I wanted to go. Growing up here, I wanted to.
Sure.
Fredonia wasn't really on my radar because I wanted to go away.
Yeah.
And I went to SUNY Cortland. I didn't really love it there, and then I had my semester abroad, and I absolutely loved it, like that. But I spent the summer traveling around, so I transferred while I was traveling. My mom worked at the college, and we got everything taken care of. And to be fair, I didn't really want to come back. It was more around economics, and I got here days before I started, and I went to play basketball. Students were, and I happened to play with like the guys that John Fischetti, who was one of the greatest players ever, was a roommate of a friend of mine that had come back. So I had this, within days, I had this built-in network of mostly around sports, basketball, and the guys on the baseball team. Shout out to the guys in the Blue Anchor. But
I have heard of the Blue Anchor, yeah.
But it was really great because I didn't expect it, and I really dove into my classes, and I just had an all-around really wonderful experience. And I saw it. I treated it as I was coming from the outside, and I embraced it, and I made so many lifelong friends. I love it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So were you involved in any like clubs or organizations or anything while you were a student here?
Not enough. No, I should have.
Uh-huh.
I was pretty active in NYPIRG.
Okay, sure.
So because I had coming from my experience abroad, there was a lot happening in the world, they're politically charged, and it's a passion is to this day. I stay current on what's happening, and so there was that. And then I've always been very active in the environment and so forth. But I was just getting caught up. I changed majors. I came to, it was pretty, and I had a lot of fun. But I did spend time talking to outside of class with college professors. It's there for you if you want it, and that's the one thing we'll talk a little bit later about advice to the kids, because people want to help you. They want to have dialogue.
That's great that you took that opportunity as a professor. It was always frustrating that I'd have office hours. I wish more students would just come in to chat.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they were intimidated or because I tried to make it a welcoming environment, but I wish that more students would just be a little more curious, I guess, sometimes.
Well, I think curiosity is the core to everything I've done, and it's part of one of the things we'll talk about, be curious. I know I don't want to sound like Ted Lasso. He took that scene from me. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we saw that you have had a very successful career. You're working in strategic sales and business. Tell us a little bit about how your career developed when you graduated from Fredonia.
Yeah, it was interesting. And again, coming back, in a bit when we talk about advice, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where to go. What I ended up doing, I didn't, and that's on me. There's information to your point about office hours. You have to. I think students need to be a little proactive about like finding out where the resources are.
Mhm.
Like I never had an internship, and I should have. I mean, I worked during the summers, but so I got out of school and I moved to Boston. So I picked a location as opposed to where the opportunity was, and it took a while to find my feet. I ended up working at Fidelity Investments, and I got that job through networking with somebody on my rugby team who was a senior guy, and then that took me to California, and I was resistant because everyone has told me since I was little that, oh yeah, you'd be a great sales guy. I was like, maybe I had a different view on what sales was, handing a pen out, like just bad.
Yeah.
And it's not. And when you start to get into some complexities of what I did in managing matrix teams, expanding globally, it becomes a really fascinating role where you have to work really closely with marketing and finance and so forth. So that's kind of when I went. And then I was very fortunate to be in San Francisco during the first dot-com boom.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a gold rush. It's hard to describe even to this day. The amount of money that was flooding in, I joined a company that did technology research for companies. So not like on the financial side,
Yeah.
but so it was a company called Meta Group, and we got bought by Gartner. So we were number 2 to Gartner, and Gartner's still doing really well today. So I ended up going to work for Gartner. But it was fascinating, and I started in sales, and I was promoted through where I ended up running our global distributors.
Oh, wow.
And you talk about like the perfect role and where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in life, and it allowed me to live and work all over the world. And then I parlayed that into other roles where we were expanding. I worked for a company that did, we had technology events around the world. So I got to open events in Russia. So we launched the first technology event in Russia, which I spearheaded, which was a fascinating experience. I was living and working in Russia for quite a while. But at the same time, we had events in Tokyo and Brazil. And so I've kind of had those types of roles. And then I did pivot at one point, and I started similar roles, but with clean energy, which I'm still passionate about. So I worked in the clean energy space. And I'm mostly, it's sales, but evaluating partners. And those roles are super fun because it does impact so many different. To be successful, you have to build scalable, repeatable business, and you have to partner internally even more than externally. You have to break down silos and build trust. So when you have global channel partners, it really, once you build that core competency of how do you work smart, how do you build trust, how do you work trust internally with marketing, because you have to have consistency in your brand, but you have to allow your local markets to sell the way that they sell. And those are those life experiences that are so invaluable, especially in new markets like Asia and so forth. They do business differently, and that's where the history degree comes into play, and understanding cultures, asking the right questions, asking the right people. So yeah, it's been a good ride, a great ride.
Yeah.
Well, I had a budding career in sales once. I sold encyclopedias.
There you go.
Over the summer.
There you
That did not go well.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing you could do, I think.
Especially now.
yeah, that might be a little bit tricky now. That would be tricky. So, we also wanted to ask, what have been some of the the highlights of your career? You talked about some experiences that you had. What are some of your favorite moments from your career?
Yeah, I think when the most rewarding thing is obviously when you win as a team, and when you're in that space like sales, there's vehicles internally in companies that recognize you, and it's always great being on stage, and they send you to really nice places like Rome and so forth. But those things fade away. It's the friendships that come out of that, and I have so many great stories. But I'll give one quick one where I went to eager in my job, and we had an ex-IBMer who ran our distributor in Italy, and I sat down with him, and I wanted to get down to business, and we got to the office, and he said, come on, let's go to lunch. And so we went to lunch, and again, I'm eager, and I want to, and I had to go there to deliver him bad news that if he didn't turn his numbers around, I was going to take his distributor back from him. And this is a guy who had great success in IBM and senior guy, and his name was Alfredo, and we started to talk, and I started talking about work, and he just looked at me and he said, "We don't talk about business at lunch." And he put his hand on and it was one of those life lessons where you're like, okay, take a step back, listen more and talk less. And we didn't talk about anything at work, and we had a typical Italian lunch of 3 hours. We got back to the office, and it was a Friday, I think, and he said, I invited me to his place in Lake Como, and we got to know each other, and came back in the office, and at that point he knew what we needed to do, and I had to deliver some hard news, and that was a case where we turned that whole thing around. And those are things where when you have global distributors, they have to hit certain quotas and numbers and so forth. And sometimes, like my experience in France, it was supposed to be a quick turnaround, and I was there for almost 2 years and understand French labor law way better than I ever need to. But but those, when you build these enablement programs, like that's highly rewarding when you see the success of that. And then we would have a whole full company event, and you're up on stage and you're bringing that message. It's great.
Yeah,
it's an amazing feeling.
I bet.
Yeah. Anything frustrating? What would you say is the major frustration of your career? That's a fun question.
I think twofold. There's stress, like talking about French labor law, which was so nonsensical to me, But you understand it and why. But to live it, it's very hard to. These employees didn't even report to me, but the way that the French, I had to go to court every once a week. We'd have to go for each employee and so forth. But I think for me, and again, advice, I think what I thought perception was having a 360 view, because I took many different jobs within sales and marketing and operations and so forth. That doesn't always look good when you move to the next role, unless, I would say if you're going to do that, get an MBA, because I always thought, hey, I'm getting an MBA on the job, but, I should have, I probably, in order to advance my career further. But I also left and went to work in clean tech. So I guess I bounced around a little bit. That was somewhat frustrating because you continually have to repurpose. But then you're going to find somebody who says, hey, this guy has the background that I need. So, but that has been frustrating. And now more than ever, especially in tech in the Bay Area, San Francisco, the life expectancy of somebody within a role is relatively short. And if you want it, there's so much that the market is so dynamic that you just need to be able to pivot and tell your story. And I always think I could have done a better job of that. But then you land on your feet but it's a bit of a struggle, and especially as you get older, because I'm kind of age out as you, but was doing what I do now is taking more consulting roles and board roles and so forth.
The two of us have had different career experiences. I came here in 1979, stayed here for 43 years, and then retired.
There's something to that, though. I think.
Yeah.
So how do you feel your time at Fredonia did help to shape your career and where you are today? I know you've already hit on that some.
I really like the ability to talk to the professors, which I took advantage, or even meet somebody out for a glass of wine. Like, if you're approachable and and that's where the curiosity comes in. I've always been curious, and I always want to learn. Even today, I want to understand, and I think that helps. But I mean, the friendships that was the thing, that how quickly I was able to establish friendships here, because I already had certain friends, and it's just parlaying those relationships. And that was really fun. And I would say, like, go into a basketball game when your friend is playing, or the baseball games or so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
But I think for me, just I loved the fact that you could participate in class, you can ask questions, you could it was I found that invaluable. And like I said, I didn't really want to come here, and it was the best thing I could have done. I loved it. And
Great.
I did spend two cycles on 2 3-year terms on the alumni board, which was great
wow.
later
Oh,
to kind of keep current.
Oh, that's good.
I like that. So what advice would you offer to current Fredonia students?
I think that obviously we just talked about it, is be curious, but really I think there are things that are happening so quickly, and of course living in the Bay Area, I'm very close to it. But for instance, AI, how that is going to impact, and there are no right or wrong answers. To prepare for this, I actually talked to my friend Allison, who's a best-selling author in AI, and she's like, "Hey, it's so dynamic. Like, we're still trying to figure this stuff out." But I think the best advice I would say is, especially being somebody who's local, my parents were always like, go see the world, embrace what you want to do, and don't be afraid, and always hang out with people that are smarter than you, hang out with people that are going to challenge you. And I say that in life, my girlfriend's a lot smarter than I am, but
Mine is too.
Thanks.
But
Nice plug.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chloe.
but yeah, I just found that I always wanted to learn. I wasn't afraid to, challenge myself, and that's helped me in my career. It's helped me personal. It's helped me in rugby. I was playing against guys who played for the U.S. national team as teammates and opposite, and you understand that they're the better player, but you don't be afraid. But I think the final thing would don't be afraid to reach out to people. And I want to put myself out there to anybody listening to this, is find me on LinkedIn. William Patrick Carlson. I don't know a lot about AI, but I could put you in touch with Allison or her articles. Like, if somebody doesn't know somebody, don't be afraid, because people want to help. And I could tell you, I just did a friend of mine, a former colleague, runs the program for the University of Georgia Business School. And they came to the Bay Area, and I set something up with SAP and brought their students in. And every one of the people on that program, this is the second year I've helped them, they're contacting me. And if I don't know somebody, they'll look at a company on LinkedIn and say, or see somebody that I know that spoke at a conference or so forth, or heads up sales, or and I've made a lot of connections, a lot of advice, and I would love to help more people. There are a lot of smart people, a lot of successful people at SUNY Fredonia, and leverage that network, but leverage every network, and don't be afraid. As long as you do it in the right way, people are busy, but if you just, I can't stress it enough, people want to help, and that's my advice: is don't be afraid to network in everything you do.
Just sounds like it can have a ripple effect. So someone, and then they know someone, and that's a great way to network and be successful.
And it's also when I had roles, like I used to build teams, and I would have hired a Fredonia grad. I would have, there wasn't always a mechanism. I would call in or something at times to find out. But yeah, there's a two-way street, because if you're curious and if you're pounding the network trying to figure out what you want to do, and that's the other thing is, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got to. I mean, I wasn't prepared. I don't think that's I wish I would have been more structured as a freshman, sophomore, junior, to look at internships and so forth. So I started late, but just you just don't be afraid to reach out to people. And it's the time of your career where you can ask a lot of questions. Like, those are the best questions I get from the University of Georgia students is, what do you do today? Like, what does your day really look like? What does that role really look like? I didn't have that from my own father, for instance. He was great, but he couldn't give me career advice or help me. So just don't be afraid. Just reach out, and I would love to help in any way. As a matter of fact, I think one of the things that we're going to work on with the Alumni Association is I'm going to host an event in California for alumni, but I would love to see some students who are considering the Bay Area to come to that because I'm going to host it at one of my clubs, and it's going to be fun.
Right. That sounds wonderful.
Awesome.
Well, you have really offered some, I think, wonderful advice to our students and life in general.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you've kind of lived it.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for appearing on our podcast today. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, just I love Fredonia. Go Blue Devils.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I am Jack Croxton.
I'm Chloe Kowalik.
And I'm Matt Voltz, and we'll see you in the next podcast.